Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It is absolutely fantastic to have you here on a Tuesday. We got a great show. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on this Tuesday?
I'm great today, Nate, and I'm very happy. Over the weekend, we went to the St. John's game against Creighton, and what a great game. We didn't expect a whole lot, given the way St. John's has played all year and given that Creighton was ranked number 15. But, wow, they really showed up. They played great, super defense, hit all their foul shots 100%. Didn't get into foul trouble like they usually do. Really basically gave up on the three-pointer because they really haven't been able to hit it. Took the mid-range jumper, hit many of those. Rebounded well, really a complete game from them. And Patino playing two lineups, starting with his go-to guys, starters, and then bringing in a second lineup in each quarter. Actually, I think he did. Maybe he didn't do it every quarter, but he did it a couple.
They play halves. They don't play quarters.
Halves. I'm sorry, and halves. Yeah, he did it twice in the first and the second half. Really enjoyed the game. We went together. It was fun. I'm wearing their colors tonight in honor of that win.
Well, the Big East came out with its TV ratings for the season so far, and that game, St. John's versus Creighton, was the highest viewed Big East game so far this season, over Villanova and UConn. They had 1.151 million viewers on CBS, the game we just went to. So it seems like St. John's, even though they didn't play great this season, still bringing in over 1 million people more than the number one team in the nation, UConn, did.
New York City.
So,
right.
I was going to say that St. John's dominating in the Big East when it comes to viewership, at least for this game. It was an insane win. That's the second loudest.
You think they got a chance to get into the playoffs?
They need to go undefeated.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can do it. I hope they do. They're playing Georgetown at one. I forgot the other team they're playing, but they should be able to beat Georgetown. And
the other team is ranked lower than them too, I believe. Whoever it is, I can't think of who it is either.
I'm sure. Let's see. Who are they? They're playing Butler. Okay.
Butler.
I believe Posh Alexander, who played for St. John's last year, he's on Butler. So it'll be a revenge game for St. John's to come up with a win and potentially make it into the NCAA tournament. But let's get started with today's show. So we got a couple good topics and a couple, I would say, repeating themes when it comes to topics we've talked about on the show before. But let's start with the first one. So this is something that I think is going to be very, very controversial. So the Arizona Cardinals posted on social media, we're going to bring it up right here for you, talk about Kyler Murray, calling him the franchise quarterback, with their GM saying, quote, "I think the way Kyler came back at the end of the year gave us all a lot of confidence. The way the offense hit their stride, both running the football and throwing the football, and just getting Kyler's health back to a point where he could use his legs, use his arms to do the things we're accustomed to seeing." But this is kind of fascinating because they did this the last time they drafted a quarterback, actually. 2 months prior to that, Josh Rosen apparently was their franchise quarterback moving forward, at least on social media with the Cardinals. On back then it was called Twitter, now it's called X. Y'all having fun with the speculation, but, and a quote from Cliff Kingsbury, at the time was the head coach, quote, "Josh is our guy." Then 2 months later, they drafted Kyler Murray first overall. So the internet's having a lot of fun with this topic, with the fact that it's the social media team for the Cardinals is again putting it on blast that Kyler Murray is their franchise guy. I want to know, are the Cardinals making a mistake with keeping Kyler as their QB1 for the foreseeable future?
Well, they made a mistake in whoever they hired as their marketing director, because that was the stupidest thing they ever could have done. Because most of the fans now are out there saying, well, we should be worried about whether Kyler's really going to be there or not. Last time he came out with a quote like that, you ditched Josh Rosen 2 months later. So I don't know what it really means. It's a big joke on the internet. Lots of fans coming out and saying, well, Kyler Murray should be worried now. The Cardinals have signed up for him as their franchise quarterback. It probably means nothing. I don't know. I mean, let's look at his career stats. 66.6%. 15,647 yards, 94 TDs, 46 interceptions, a 92.2 passer rating, quarterback rating. Not too bad.
92 ain't bad.
Not bad at all. But you look at some of the decisions he's made in big games, you got to maybe step back a little bit. The stats don't always tell the whole story. He's got a $250 million commitment to him through 2028. He's already been through 2 years of that. Didn't play much last year because he tore his ACL in the prior year and later in the season.
It was against the Patriots.
Against the Patriots. So I'm not sure. They gave him a contract that had a requirement for him to watch more film in it.
Suppose it. And
then
apparently
they
took it out.
They took it out. So I don't know. The way their public relations work and the way they manage the communications between the fans and between the fans and the team, I got to say, needs some work there.
Well, I find it fascinating how the GM's coming out and saying we saw improvements from Kyler Murray over the very, very end of the season because, like you said, he tore his ACL, so he was able to come back in Week 10. Let's take a look at those last, let's call it 4 games, because he said the direct quote was, at the end of the year, gave us all a lot of confidence, the way he came back. So the last 4 games, he went 1-3 with 1 win over Philadelphia, who we knew to be massive frauds. That was actually his best game of the season, was against the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's the same team in the playoff game that made Baker look like a $50 million a year quarterback. And the one Mac Jones, who's getting benched for the rest of his career, probably, had his best career game as well. So Philadelphia, I would not give that much credit to that win. How about this? A quarterback that's been in the news for months at this point now, actually probably for the past 2 years, is Justin Fields and the Bears. You lost by 11 to the Chicago Bears, who a lot of people say has been the worst team for a very, very long time in a defense of Justin Fields. You lost to them 27-16. You got blasted by San Francisco, expected. You got blasted by the Rams. You lost by only 5 to Houston, which I guess that's a moral victory if you believe in those. You barely beat Atlanta, who don't have a quarterback. Let's see. You also lost to Seattle. Seattle wasn't a great team this season. So I don't know if it's more of a Cardinal problem or a Kyler Murray problem, but what I do know is that he is not living up to the exact number of his contract, which is 5 years, $230 million, with $160 million of that guaranteed. He is not playing like a $160 million guaranteed quarterback. His career record is 28-36-1, 66% completion percentage, which I don't have a problem with. He had basically 17.99 in passing yards. I'll give him 1,800 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 picks. And for the past 2 seasons now, he's had a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is not that good. He has a lot of turnovers. Basically has a 2-to-1 for his entire career.
Yeah, it's a lot of interceptions, 46.
Yeah. It's a lot. He's banged up, and then everyone harks on, you talked about his decision making. It's in the Rams playoff game. A major part of his game is using his legs, utilizing his ability to run the football, because he is a smaller quarterback. He's only 5'10", so he has to use his legs. Same with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had this. He could drop back, 8 steps down, back in the pocket, and launch it 65 yards for a touchdown. That was a major part of Russell Wilson's game. Now that he's older, he has to swing left, swing right. He has to move around to create those openings for those passes. Kyler Murray, if he's not willing to run the ball, then that's taking out a massive part of his success away from his own team.
He did have an ACL tear, and that takes time to recover from. So that he's not out there running all over the place in the last half of this past season when he came back late in the season, I can understand that a little bit. We'll see what happens.
I'm not expecting to rush for 1,000 yards. But what I'm expecting to is when he has inopportune moments to take those chances to run the football. And how about this? Even we talked about the Rams game. Pre-injury, he wouldn't run the ball. He was on his own 2-yard line and threw a pick 6 in that game too. I mean, I don't love it. And the fact that homework clause, as they called it, was even implemented into his contract. It got leaked to the media. Everyone was clowning on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals for creating that. Then they supposedly took it out. I mean, no, do I think Kyler Murray is extremely talented? Yes, I do. He throws a great football, not that accurately, but he throws a great deep ball, and he is incredibly mobile, something that a lot of teams would cherish in this league.
Yeah.
But I think because the overall offense of the team is not great, the entire team is a complete mess. You lost D-Hop. You got Hollywood Brown as your wide receiver. You're in a perfect position. I believe you're at the number 4 spot to probably draft Marvin Harrison Jr. If everything is the way the mock drafts are looking, you're probably going to be drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. My problem is your offensive line isn't great. James Conner, I would say, is a perfectly fine running back. He actually had a very, very good season this past year. I think your defense needs severe pickups from that side. But I don't think Kyler Murray is going to get you to the promised land anytime soon. And I'm expecting to see growth. I think everyone, when you're this far into your career, you expect to see some growth. He's going into year 6. I expect not for him to decline. He had what? He missed basically damn near an entire season, 2 halves of a season, at the end of last season against the Patriots, and then the first half of this season. Will that translate to lackluster performances? And by the way, not this prior season, the season before, didn't play well. He didn't play very well. That season, he had 2,300 yards in 11 games, 66% completion percentage. So the completion percentage is not terrible. It's not bad. 14 touchdowns and 7 picks in 11 games. That I don't love. Don't love that. No offensive production there. So if they draft Marvin Harrison, would that make a difference? Probably. Because Marvin Harrison's probably out of the gate better than Hollywood Brown if we're talking about star wide receiver. But for me, yeah, I mean, I'd keep Kyler Murray for the foreseeable future. You're paying him so much money anyway. There's no point in getting off of him.
Yeah. I'm not sure who would take him, who would want him.
I think a lot of teams would want that kind of a talent. The
Falcons.
But
to take over that salary, that's big money.
If you believe in a guy's talent, you would. For instance, if the Bears decide to get off of Justin Fields, they're going to need to pay him. They would need to give him his 5th year.
Yeah, well, they're going the rookie route.
Well, I'm saying another team, if they want Justin Fields, would need to pay him something.
Yeah.
And if they think he's capable of being a starter, they would need to pay him proper starter money. So we're saying at least probably $35 million at the very base of it. And is Justin Fields worth $35 million to another team? I have no idea. Would the Falcons be interested in Kyler Murray or Justin Fields? Absolutely. They want that run scheme.
I would say teams would be more interested in Kyler Murray than Justin Fields.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I think Kyler Murray is a much better talent than Justin Fields.
I mean, he's a Heisman Trophy winner too, right?
My only concern is the decision-making because Justin Fields will run. Kyler Murray, I don't think he'll run as much. Because we saw Justin Fields very, very close to breaking Lamar Jackson's rookie rushing record. I don't see Kyler Murray doing that, his 7th year in. But he's a much better thrower than Justin Fields is. Much better thrower. And I think because, the front office of the Cardinals is probably one of the worst. They were graded Fs in a bunch of their facilities and training and recoveries. They were graded F in a bunch of categories. I just think the Cardinals overall, there's not a great franchise.
Yeah.
So maybe Kyler, I mean, they're definitely probably, unless, something completely changes and let's say they're really fascinated in Drake May or Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. And we'll take him over Kyler Murray.
I don't think that's happening.
Neither do I. So
I mean, they wouldn't have put out, well, maybe it is because they put that statement out. He's our franchise quarterback. Last time they said he's our guy, they went and drafted Kyler Murray over Rosen. So,
well, they did have the number 1 overall pick that year.
Yeah.
I would say that situation's probably closer to this year's Bears if they went out and said Justin Fields is our number 1 guy or he's our franchise quarterback. That would be probably more so, that would be closer to Josh Rosen's situation than it is about, this Cardinals team. They're at number 4, so they're not a good team. They went 4-13 last season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing this team make the playoffs next year or the year after that.
You think their coach is a good coach?
What, Jonathan Gannon?
Yeah.
I mean, it was his first season. I think he did an okay job with what he's got.
Yeah.
He didn't have much to work with. They were 25th in defense, 19th in offense. They were the 4th best rushing team in the NFL, but 26th in passing because you had quarterbacks like Josh Dobbs and Clayton Tune even got out there for a hot minute, and then you had Kyler Murray wrap up the end of the year. Josh Dobbs going 1-7, isn't great.
Yeah.
Isn't great. But he got similar production from him and Kyler Murray. And that's the curious part. Kyler Murray did win 2 more games, but they're very similar numbers between Kyler and Josh Dobbs. So it just proves that, maybe you didn't need to pay that much money for a guy like Kyler Murray, especially when, what has he proven you? He's gotten you to how many playoff runs? He's gotten you to 1 playoff game in his entire career. And in that game,
he played terrible.
He had 56% completion percentage, 137 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. He had a passer rating of 40.9.
Did he have a fumble that led to a touchdown right at the goal line there? Was that a fumble?
I think that was a pick 6.
It was a pick 6, yeah.
So, I mean, I think the Cardinals should stick with him. That would be the smart idea because you're already paying him all this money.
Yeah.
Go build up your offensive weapons, build your O-line, and build up that defense. That defense now.
Is there another Call of Duty coming out anytime soon? I mean, he spends a lot of time playing that game, right?
Yes. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he actually is signed by a esports team. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure he signed to an esports team. Could be wrong.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure if a new Call of Duty is coming out. We someone, I believe it was on Reddit. They have to run the numbers again to see how he did this season. Because I believe a new Call of Duty came out this past season. So
yeah. Can you put the picture up again once more?
Which one? Do you want both of them together or
just one?
Just
the
Kyler?
First one. I love that uniform.
That the red one?
Yeah, with the white helmet with the red cardinal on the side. Nice uniform.
I like the black one where it had like the red sparkle in it.
Yeah. So
I'm more of a finesse type of jersey. Like for instance, I like the Colts black helmets. No, I don't think anybody likes those. I like those helmets.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I didn't see him wear a black helmet.
I think I think Gardner Minshew. I mean, obviously Gardner Minshew. They wore it this season. I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to. I don't know which game it was, but I'm pretty sure they wore it this season. Like, I think one like logo
Is it
design
black
that I
with
hated,
a white horseshoe on it.
It's a blue horseshoe.
A black with a blue horseshoe on it.
Yeah.
Black and blue.
Yeah.
That's what they were most of this year.
Black
and blue.
No. Here's a helmet that I do actually like that no one else liked. The half black fading into a gold Jaguars helmet.
Oh, that one, yeah.
I didn't mind that one.
Yeah, they stopped wearing that one.
I mean, nobody likes that. They think it's one of the worst helmet designs in the NFL.
It was a little odd.
It was strange to have a half helmet colored one way and the other half colored a separate way. I don't know. I like it. Most people didn't. That's why they got rid of it. So
yeah, okay.
What do you want to do? All right, let's get into this one. So we've speculated. I've made clips of this before. Alex Van Pelt, the new offensive coordinator. We're now giving out titles in New England. Alex Van Pelt discussed the future of the quarterback position within New England in his opening press conference with the team, and this is what he had to say.
The biggest thing is there's some good pieces in place. I think the best thing for everybody is it's going to be a fresh start for everybody. I've talked to a couple guys already to coming in with a clean slate, no preconceived expectations or notions of who these guys are, and then we'll build it from the ground up.
Alex, you mentioned that you had a chance to meet Mac Jones. Can you envision him being this team's starter next season?
Really right now, everything is on the table. As we go through this process, we're really this last couple weeks, 10 days, have just been diving into who we are, trying to evaluate our guys. A lot of people in this situation on staffs that have been here, they're doing free agency. Well, we're doing our guys as they are free agents. So we're trying to understand who we have here as well as looking at other players out there. But right now, everything is on the table, and we're just still working through that process. When that time comes, I'm sure it'll be a collaborative effort, and we'll make the right decisions.
What are you going to say about that? Alex Van Pelt, Brandon Wosey, I'm glad the Patriots are finally giving out titles when it comes to coaching positions. So if everything's on the table, I want to know, should the Patriots give Mac Jones or Bailey Zappe another chance to be their starting quarterback?
Yeah, well, I think that's fine. Everything's on the table. We're just getting started with the evaluation. He just got there, so that's fine. I'm all for that. But then when he starts saying, if everything's on the table and we're looking for a smart, tough leader who's accurate and mobile and has good decision-making, gets the best out of the rest of his players, then he's definitely looking for a new quarterback because nobody on that team was doing that the last couple of years. So that's for sure. Mac Jones, nobody considered him much of a leader. He lost the locker room here in the last year. They thought he was a prima donna. His accuracy wasn't so good. Mobility, he hasn't really much mobility at all. His decision-making was horrible, right? He got himself benched halfway through the season. He didn't get the best out of the other players, although you got to admit they didn't really have too many other players to get the best out of. And he, in terms of being smart and tough, you got to question that a little bit. So Bailey Zappe, I don't think he's the real deal either. I got to say, he's tough. I'll give him that, and he shows leadership. I think that's too. But in terms of having a really great arm and making the best decisions, I think that's a problem too. So, and he's more mobile than Mac Jones. So according to these criteria, I actually think Bailey Zappe might have a little bit of a leg up on Mac Jones. But I'm interested to hear what you think.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this. The Patriots have a lot of cap space. They're the fourth most cap space in the NFL. And NFL.com listed the Patriots the most needs, what they need the most. And this is the list that NFL.com came up with. Quarterback was number one, then tight end, then offensive tackle, wide receiver, and then running back. And those, if you're watching on YouTube, those are who's on the active roster. No credible tight end. Hunter Henry's gone. He's hitting free agency. Gesicki is going to be a free agent. Pharaoh Brown, who had a sparkling moment early in the season, he'll be gone. The only guy, his last name is Petway. Pretty sure he was on the practice squad. They got no one. Michael Wenu, offensive tackle. He was a guard, moved to tackle. He's a free agent. Trent Brown, he's a free agent. Wide receiver, you have Juju Smith-Schuster and Devontae Parker, who are completely overpaid. Tyquan Thornton, who's a complete bust. Demario Douglas, who was the leading receiver, and he had the 61st most receiving yards in the NFL last season. That's a major problem. And Kayshon Boutte, who was in Belichick's doghouse for Lord knows what reason, and he got arrested for gambling underage when he was at LSU. So he's dealing with his own problems. Running back, Zeke's gone. You have Stevenson, then you have Kevin Harris, then Keyshawn Vaughn, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Then you also have Jermichael Hasty. So this team, by the way, they're 31st in offensive spending, if I got that number correct. They are 31st in offensive spending for this past season. They're 30th in offensive line spending. No wonder why the offensive line was one of the worst in pass blocking, why Mac Jones had horrible time to throw.
You get what you pay for.
Exactly. And that's thanks to the one and only Bill Belichick, who you will still defend to the ends of the earth.
That's true.
But that is the case. Belichick did not spend where it mattered. By the way, Demario Douglas, 561 yards. He had no touchdowns on the year. I think the only wide receiver that led in touchdowns was Kendrick Bourne, who is also a free agent, who had 4. The leader was Hunter Henry with 6. The offense was horrible. Absolutely abysmal. However, the Patriots, like I said, are 4th in cap space. My problem is, and also, first of all, before I jump into what I think they should do at the quarterback position, do you respect Brian Hoyer's opinion?
What was his opinion?
I'm asking, do you respect his opinion? He was a former Patriot.
I have no reason not to respect his opinion.
Okay, so he went
He's a long-term veteran. He's watched a lot of games from the bench. So he knows the game. And
was a part of Bill Belichick's system for a number of years.
Yeah, it's true.
Was there, not this past year, but the year before.
Yeah.
He was in Mac Jones' rookie year.
He was in for like 4 plays before he got a concussion.
Right, he had
concussion
concussion on his sack, Bailey Zappe, and then, he was responsible for all the people who believed in the Zappe hype. He went on Good Morning Football and said, quote, "I'm going to stick up for my guy Mac. He's kind of got a raw deal the past few years. A guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., pair him up. I know what Mac's capable of. I witnessed it his rookie year." He believes Mac Jones basically got shafted by the New England Patriots and mostly by Bill Belichick. He's the guy that buys all the groceries, that determines the offensive skill set. I went through it before on the show. Belichick's offensive draft pieces are abysmal. Absolutely horrible. I believe it was less than 25% offensive hits, and I think it's even worse than that. It may be 16.5. I would need to go, rummage through my statistics over here to my right. But what's also fascinating is that once again, the Patriots have some of the worst open receivers in the NFL when it comes to separation. Out of 109 receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster in openness is 103rd. They gave him a 3-year deal. They were $1 million off from Mac Jones' security blanket, who made some phenomenal plays when he was on the Patriots, and that's Jacoby Myers. Okay, what about the guy that they're spending about $12 million on for the next 2 seasons, Devontae Parker? He was notorious for the past 3 seasons being dead last in wide receiver separation. Once again, make it year 4. He was dead last in wide receiver separation. This is Belichick's work. To say that Mac Jones, and I could completely understand it, he was frustrated, and maybe he didn't respond correctly to being absolutely screwed over by an offensive staff that wasn't qualified to be a part of an offense. Everybody can understand that. Belichick was doing his buddies a favor after being fired. Why did they get fired? They didn't do their jobs. They kept losing. And instead, Belichick promoted them, basically, from where they were on his staff to higher-ups, to positions they didn't know how to coach. And that led to failure. Shocking. And what does Belichick do in the redemption season that I was hyped for? I don't think you could tell, if you look back at some of the old shows, how hyped I was for this past season. Oh, I was hyped for this season because it was supposed to be Bill O'Brien. We had two very decent tight ends. I think Hunter Henry's a B-plus tight end, and Mike Gesicki, who wasn't that bad. And I was very, very excited. And lo and behold, it was a complete cataclysmic failure. But Mac Jones started off fine. It was turnovers and poor offensive line play. That was the detriment of the Patriots early on. We remember the Philadelphia game. Mac Jones threw a slightly overthrown ball to, I believe, Kendrick Bourne that was housed. And then you had Zeke, I believe on the very next drive, fumble the ball away. And then the following game, and then, of course, you had Kayshon Boutte not being able to keep his feet in bounds. Then you had the Miami Dolphins game. And once again, not a great performance offensively. You had 2 turnovers in the game. You lost by 7. The offensive line couldn't hold late. I believe it was Devontae Parker who, shockingly, separated from his defensive back and was open on the right side of the field. I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to say, you know what, Mac, we'll give you a legitimate shot. We're going to get you...
Oh, you said this last year.
I did say this last year.
Near the end of the season, you said right. Mac Jones should get another shot and that they should draft Harrison Jr.
Correct.
Right.
And what I would do is, I would draft, if Bo Nix or Michael Penix or J.J. McCarthy, if any of these quarterbacks are in the second round, you draft them there. Regardless of what happens, you draft a wide receiver at the number 3 overall pick.
Even if Jalen Daniels is available at number 3.
That's pulling on my heartstrings a little bit because I want Jaden Daniels on the Patriots. I think he is probably the second best quarterback in the draft, but I think the Commanders are wising up and hearing some of the commotion about Drake May and how he could slip, and I do think Drake May will slip. And that's my fear, that if the Commanders take Jaden Daniels, that the Patriots would draft Drake May because they feel like they need a quarterback. If I'm the Patriots, I'm not drafting Drake May. I'm going Marvin Harrison, and if another quarterback's available in the second round, you have, I think, a top pick in the second round anyway, that's where you go and get a quarterback. Because regardless, you want to help out whatever quarterback is your starter next season. If you can get the top receiver in the draft immediately, you're helping out whoever is behind there. You sign Michael Wenu. If you want Trent Brown, you can bring him back. You have reportedly, the Bucs are probably going to re-sign Mike Evans. That's perfect for them. Now you can go sign Baker Mayfield. But if Mike Evans hits the open market, I'd sign Mike Evans. You have the 4th most cap space. You have $78 million. Make some moves. I'd get Kendrick Bourne back. He was a Mac Jones security blanket. There's moves that need to be made. And there's people who I think now are in a position to make them. When it was Belichick's decision, nobody could do anything without Bill Belichick approving it. Or Belichick just doing it himself. And that led to a bunch of pieces completely failing. I think they're going to trade Juju. I think they're going to move a couple pieces here that are completely useless and unnecessary. I'm not sure either. But what I do think is, reportedly, they're shopping a bunch of people, including both Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster. Good.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Because it's crazy how your slot receiver, who's your wide receiver 3, he wasn't even your wide receiver 3 entering the season, but ended up being because Parker and Smith-Schuster kept getting hurt. And he led
Parker is always hurt.
Right.
He's hurt all the time. He's not in too many games, that's for sure.
But the fact that your leading receiver had 561 yards, that was
pretty
61st in the league.
Yeah, and no touchdowns.
Some wide receiver 3s had more yards than Demario Douglas.
And Douglas was hurt for a couple of games. He wasn't in every game.
Which makes that even more shocking, how he's your leading receiver.
True.
What are you going to do?
I might explain some of the yardage, though. I mean, maybe he would have had 700 and 800 yards.
Not a chance. Yeah. Not with Zappe and Mac throwing in the ball. I mean, at one point it was almost Nathan O'Rourke.
Well, who else needs a quarterback after the Patriots? Who else is going to take those really good quarterbacks that are still left? Raiders probably.
I think the Steelers are we're gonna talk about it later, maybe. But Steelers are gonna bring in some competition.
There's 2.
The Falcons.
Yeah.
There's a number of teams. And supposedly the Seahawks are interested in Mac Jones if he becomes available via trade or by the Patriots just straight up release him. Let's see. The Giants might be looking at a quarterback. Atlanta. The Jets might be as a backup. They probably wouldn't get with the number 10 spot. Minnesota's looking for a quarterback. Denver could be looking for a quarterback. Las Vegas. Seattle maybe.
So all the good quarterbacks are going to be gone by the end of the first round.
Maybe.
So the second round, there won't be much to pick from then.
There might not be. But
I don't
regardless,
think J.J. McCarthy won't be there in the second round, I bet.
I still don't love J.J. McCarthy.
Bo Nix probably won't be. Michael Penix probably won't be.
I'm going to go down with the ship. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be, talent-wise, a first-round pick. I'll need to grind the college all-22 before we make our mocks, which I am in I'm in the process of currently doing. But for me, J.J. McCarthy is not a first-round pick. But regardless, I don't care who it is. I'd go Marvin Harrison at number 3. If Jaden, have this, I'll do a situational pick. If Jaden Daniels goes 2, that's when you draft Marvin Harrison. I would not draft Drake May. If I'm the Patriots, I wouldn't draft him. He's too much of a gunslinger. He's a little bit too reckless. There's some things that I don't love about Drake May. Can he throw a great deep ball? Sure. Sure he can. I don't love him, though. I would rather take Jaden Daniels, who is a two-way player. He can run the ball very well. He can also throw the ball pretty well. I would take him if he's available instantly. So at number 3, if Washington decides to draft May or Nix or whoever they want to draft at number 2, if it's not Jaden Daniels, if I'm the Patriots and Jaden Daniels is available, I would probably take him. But if he goes number 2, I'm drafting Marvin Harrison. Mm-hmm. I'm keeping Mack, and maybe you can go sign a veteran. You could also take that route of signing a veteran. You have Ryan Tannehill out there. Kirk Cousins is probably going to make a decent amount of money, but Jimmy G is going to be forcibly retired from the NFL.
I don't believe
Not
it.
A single team. I'm
against. I don't believe that, Nate.
I know you don't.
He will have a job. I bet you.
I was wrong with Baker Mayfield, but I feel damn sure about this. Jimmy G will not be a quarterback in 2024. Wrote it down. Wrote the date that I'm telling you. No team is going to look at last year and say, 7 touchdowns, 9 picks. We'll take him. He played 6 games, got benched for Aiden O'Connell. We'll take him. Name me one team that you think would be interested, legitimately interested.
It's a backup quarterback at the right price. I'm pretty sure he'll get a job, and he'll go for cheap money. Yeah,
not a chance. Yeah. Not a chance. I'm still.
We'll see. We've got two things I've said. My predictions: Bill Belichick will get another job, not this year, but next year, and Jimmy G will be in a uniform this year in the NFL.
I'll say this because people are right when they say this. Mac Jones did not play good. He didn't play well. He didn't play great. He didn't even play bad. He played god-awful. That's indefensible. We even made a clip entitled it, I can't defend Mac Jones anymore. He's become indefensible, especially after that near pick 6 against the Giants. I can't defend it. But what I can say is, for 2 straight seasons, Belichick did literally nothing positive on offense. Literally nothing. No one can name me one positive move. Maybe Demario Douglas, but we don't know yet.
I think
there were flashes.
Demario Douglas played pretty well, actually.
There were flashes.
He had some nice catches.
But he's a rookie. He's a 5'8" slot receiver rookie. He's not going to be out there against Jalen Ramsey catching 35 Moss shots over Jalen Ramsey. That ain't going to happen. He's not a difference maker. He's not a guy who you're saying, okay, we got to take Demario Douglas out of the game. You do that about receivers like Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. Sometimes you might say, hey, Jalen Waddle's killing us. Let's try to take him out. T. Higgins is cooking us. Let's try to slow him down. You're not going to do that about a 5'8" slot receiver, Demario Douglas, who did have flash. I'm not hating on the guy. He was the only shining light on the offense. Zeke had moments, but he's not as consistent as he once was. Stevenson got hurt. The passing game was horrible. Offensive line improved slightly. There's not much, but Demario Douglas was the only shimmering light in just a cascade of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well-
he's a 5'8" slot receiver.
Well, I
who's
think
not a difference
Ramondre
maker.
Stevenson is a good running back.
I never said he wasn't.
But in terms of shining lights on the Patriots offense, I think Ramondre Stevenson is one. I mean, he couldn't
was
run
hurt.
it. He did get hurt, but
I can't say he's a
when
shining
he
light
was
when
in
he's hurt.
there at the beginning of the season, there were no holes to run through at all. Nothing. And as the season progressed, he did get better, and then he unfortunately got hurt. So I see him as a shining light.
Well, he's got to be out there first. If he's
He
not,
will be.
if
I mean,
he's
he
not
was-
out there, I can't say he's a light.
Okay, well, the ankle is an ankle
Like
issue.
I can't call. No, I'm not even gonna go there because it's not technically right. Not technically right. So I'm not gonna dig myself a hole by saying that. But I'd give Mac Jones another shot with a legitimate receiver core, with a staff that is a legitimate staff, with multiple people having different roles and titles of roles too. They have titles now. They can wear a name tag that says, "Hi, I'm so and so," and it shows their tag, not just their name. We're gonna see Alex Van Pelt, offensive coordinator. We're not gonna hear from Belichick saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, my son Steve is gonna be calling defensive plays, but he's the linebackers coach." No, we're gonna have proper roles now. And by the way, I believe it was the brand new GM he took a shot at Belichick. I don't have the quote up, but
Really?
oh yeah,
That's a low thing to do.
why?
That's sour grapes. That's you're coming into a new job at the Patriots, which is a storied franchise, a dynasty
anymore.
for a long time, and you come in and take a shot at Bill Belichick. Come on.
And
The guy's
here's the
stupid.
quote. Here's the
That's
quote. So he was at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and he said, "quote The team will have less of a hard ass vibe." That is Belichick.
Yeah. Well, that means they will go maybe 1-16.
Not at all. Not at all. 6-11. 6-11. They're going to improve from last season. You know why? Because I think there'll be a livelier energy. I think players will. While it might not be good for the younger players to always be, stiff back, at attention always, I think just people might enjoy coming to work. Regardless of win and loss, it'll just feel a little bit nicer. I think Gerard Mayo, the players wanted Gerard Mayo to be the head coach. I think this is a positive thing. My prediction, 6-11.
Yeah.
We normally do these in mid to late August. I'm making it right now. 6-11, New England Patriots. They're going to be last.
Last place in their division.
They're going to be last, but that's expected because the team is horrible. When you spend the 31st lowest money, the 31st most money actually, second to last, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have a bad team. If they all of a sudden become 16th in spending, there you go. Just offensively. I think they spend like 37% of their cap on defense.
Okay, well, now they've got the chance to spend their money on offense. We'll
And
see
they
what
should.
they do.
We got receivers,
There are
offensive
a lot
line,
of
tight
players
ends,
out there to get. I'm not
running
so
backs,
sure.
quarterbacks.
They're going to have to spend some big money to get a really good player or two on offense.
Normally, that's how it works. If
you
there's
know
a
what?
good
I
player,
agree
then you
with
spend
you.
a lot of money.
I agree with you on the draft setup there. If Jalen Daniels is available, take him. If he's not, take Harrison. I would agree with that because the rest of those quarterbacks after who's the first guy there?
Caleb Williams.
After and Daniels, those are the two best guys, and the rest of those guys I think are questionable.
Well, once again, currently on the active roster, this is who the Patriots have. They have no tight ends. They have 3 offensive tackles that aren't good. Calvin Anderson,
Are there any good free agent tight
Vidarian Lowe, and
ends?
Connor McDermott.
Are there any good free agent tight ends?
Yeah, there's 2. Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. There you go.
Okay.
Oh, and also Jonnu Smith got released today. You might want to bring him back.
I wouldn't bring him back.
I would. He had 50 catches for 500 yards. Why not?
And why did he get released?
He actually got used because the new OC is not going to use those 2 tight end sets or multiple tight end sets, which Arthur Smith liked to do, which Bill O'Brien tried to do, but I think it would have worked better with Jonnu Smith. But that's my opinion. I'd bring him in. He could be used in the running game. The Patriots
Probably get him pretty cheap. He got released.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the Patriots utilized him that well. You can bring him in for a second try if you want to. Get him at the cheap. We're going to take a break, but coming up, Russell Wilson won on Brandon Marshall's podcast, I Am Athlete, and discussed his future goals like winning 2 Super Bowls in the next 5 years? What? As well as Draymond Green, your guy, stepping up for Jayson Tatum and maybe speaking the hardest truth in the NBA over the course of a career. Jayson Tatum, should he be a higher consideration for the MVP? We'll talk about that right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It is great to have you in on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic. So, Russell Wilson went on Brandon Marshall's podcast and spoke about his future goals when it comes to maybe re-signing with the Broncos or just staying on the Broncos or potentially moving to a different team. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I got more fire than ever, honestly, especially over the past 2 years of what I've gone through. Whether if it's in Denver or somewhere else, I hope it's in Denver. For me, it's about winning. Over the next 5 years, I want to win too. I want to feel the chill of that trophy again. So, yeah, I want to go back to Denver. I hope I get to go back.
So after Sean Payton benched him and the injury guarantee completely, just Sean Payton played that horribly. The injury guarantee threatening to bench him after, for the last 9 games of the season if he didn't restructure his injury guarantee or get rid of it. There's a complete mess in Denver. But now apparently Sean Payton, because he's looking around saying, I don't know if we're in a great position to draft a quarterback, and Russell Wilson may be our best shot to maybe stay, keep Russell Wilson. I want to know, just what do you think the chances of Russell Wilson doing what he says and winning, at least one Super Bowl? What are the chances he actually does that with any team that may be interested in him?
Oh, well, I got one other thing I want to predict before we get to that one. What are the chances Russell Wilson will be back in Denver? 0.
Really?
Yeah. He isn't going to go back there. I mean, and he doesn't want to go back there either. He says he wants to stay in Denver. He's fully committed. I hope it's Denver. I hope I get to finish there. I'm committed there. I wanted to be there. I want to be there. Yeah, right. Of course, I just want to win. Okay, well, here's what Sean Payton did. Sean Payton yelled at him multiple times on the sidelines in front of everybody, right? Embarrassed the hell out of the guy. Then he benched him, and then for the last 2 games of the season, and then he said he was out looking for another quarterback. So I don't think there's any chance he's going to be back in Denver. I think he's gone. And by the way, if he's still there on March 17th, he's guaranteed $37 million salary. So bye, Russell. You're headed somewhere else. I'm sorry. And whether you're going to win 2 more Super Bowls, you better pick up your game some from what you've been playing the last 2 years, because you won't get there by throwing a lot of interceptions, fumbling the ball, and making a lot of mistakes and poor decisions.
That is true. And by the way, what's fascinating is that Sean Payton was in a press conference and said, quote, there's a Broncos fan with a shirt on with like 8 quarterbacks, names crossed through them, and he's like drinking the quarterback Kool-Aid, he said. Our job is to make sure that this next one doesn't have a line through it. That's the key there. The next one. He's this idea of repeatedly saying that he wants to be in Denver, wants to stay in Denver, wants to, complete his career in Denver. He's making it very clear. This was not a I want out situation. This is a they are kicking me out. That's what this is. This is protecting his image of I'm getting kicked out of here. I wanted to stay here. Which, honestly, they are kicking him out. If they threaten to bench him after 9 games, not for poor play, because last season it was the farthest thing from poor play. He did go 7-8, but he had 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 picks on 3,000 yards, 66% completion percentage. That's not bad at all. And at one point in the season,
he made some big mistakes, though. He did make some big
like
mistakes
what?
In the Jets game. He fumbled the ball.
One game,
right, and they lost it. That cost them. They were moving the ball down the field. They were going for a winning drive, and he muffed it. Well, and he got yelled at by Peyton when he came off the field on that one.
A lot of quarterbacks, they have certain games where they don't play well. That doesn't mean they're a bad quarterback.
He was signed to a giant contract to take them to the promised land.
He was,
and he didn't deliver.
Well, I mean, this is only year 2. Year 1. He didn't play well. Hackett, like Sean Payton said, one of the worst coaching jobs he's ever seen in NFL history. And let's crack this can of worms open.
But I think you're right. I think that Wilson's setting it up to make it look like they kicked him out rather than he wanted to leave.
Right.
That's for sure. And that's similar to, he learned that from Sean Payton, who, when he got there, set it up so whatever, if the team doesn't succeed, it's Russell Wilson's fault, not mine. Right. And he succeeded in doing that by benching him in the last 2 games and saying they were out looking for another quarterback, yelling at him on the sidelines, and saying a lot of negative things about him in the press and after the games and the post-game interviews. He said he doesn't think fast enough. We're going to have to he has to wear an armband now. We'll have to call plays differently because he doesn't process things fast enough. He couldn't say enough bad things about Russell Wilson. So I think Russell Wilson trying to take the high road here, but definitely setting it up, saying, you canned me. I didn't want to leave.
Right.
I think that's right.
I think that's great PR because entering Denver, the PR was he's a diva. He has his own staff. He's not a team player. And now he's sort of exiting with I tried. The coach just didn't want me. The team didn't want me.
But the way he entered was bad too.
Right,
having his own office and all of
exactly.
that's not being a good teammate.
Right.
You should be in the locker room there with everybody else, and have your booth there that's no better than anyone's, and football's a team game. It's not an individual game.
Right, exactly. Like I said, I want to open up this can of worms because first of all, and this leads into my Super Bowl conversation. Currently, at this current moment, as of February 27th, I have to preface this because, we had a comment that once say that Justin Fields was not the favorite to go to Pittsburgh. On February 27th of 2024, Russell Wilson is currently, the next team he goes to is the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is the favorite. The betting favorite are the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I thought that's where Justin Fields was
correct.
going.
Now it turned into not the case. The Falcons became Justin Fields' probable
really?
next destination. Yeah. I want to make this very clear. It doesn't matter what team he goes to. Russell Wilson is not going to win another Super Bowl in his entire career. Do I think the Steelers, talent-wise, overall, are better than the Broncos? I do, actually. I do. While their offense last season was horrible, Matt Canada was not the best OC, and they had 3 quarterbacks. They had Kenny Pickett, who's not that great, Mitch Trubisky, who doesn't deserve to start any more games, and Mason Rudolph, who didn't play that poorly.
He played well, Mason Rudolph.
It was against, maybe you could argue, subpar competition, but he did perform. He performed well underneath the circumstances. Meanwhile, the Broncos, on the other hand, their offense wasn't that great either. Neither was the defense. They had the 29th ranked defense. The Steelers had the 21st ranked defense. Offenses are basically the same. 25th for the Broncos, 26th for the 25th for the Steelers, 26th for the Broncos. So offensively, very similar. Very similar. Defensively, the Steelers have a slight upper hand. But I don't think, it doesn't matter what team he goes to, because the Chiefs' job ain't opening. None of these top-tier jobs that top-tier quarterbacks are at, they're not opening. You're going to go to a subpar team that's looking for some veteran leadership to maybe turn their franchise around for the foreseeable future. Russell Wilson will not go out there, ball his heart out, and all of a sudden end up in the next Super Bowl. Or 2 years from now in a Super Bowl. Or in 5 years from now make it to a Super Bowl. He's not that Super Bowl winner. And I talked about it before because people, proclaimed him during the Seattle years of a probable Hall of Famer. In my eyes, he's not a Hall of Famer. If we look a little bit closer, he's always had a phenomenal running game. Phenomenal. Marshawn Lynch was a top running back obviously, on the Seattle Seahawks. His passing numbers always actually well below average. Well below average. But yes, he didn't win the most games in 10 years. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think the Steelers are going to become a top 2 running team in the NFL. I just don't. They were 13th last year. I don't think whatever team he goes to is going to have a well-rounded team. He's not going to have the Legion of Boom anymore. He's not going to have the steel curtain.
I think
the purple people eaters are not going to come back.
I think you're right. The Steelers the Steelers team overall is better than the Broncos team, and particularly on offense, the wide receivers. Two very good wide receivers and 2 very good running backs as well.
And you also have a good tight end, Freiermuth, who's a very viable tight end.
So the pieces are there for him to be successful if he can set up the play-action pass with a decent running game, and the Pickens out there and the other guy, Johnson, right? I think he could perform well in Pittsburgh. Would they win a Super Bowl? I kind of with you. I don't think so. Depends on whether T.J. Watt can stay healthy the whole season, whether they could get deeper into the playoffs. They did make the playoffs last year.
They did.
And they have a good coach in Mike Tomlin. So, I don't know. I think that's a pretty good landing space for him. Would he get 2 Super Bowls there? Very doubtful.
He's not getting 1.
You don't think he'd get 1?
Not only is he not winning 1, he's not even making it to 1.
Yeah, okay.
Because he's not a Super Bowl winning quarterback anymore. It's just the way the circumstances are. Is he a terrible quarterback? No. But what we saw over the course of this past season was on script, the first, let's say just the first quarter, the first half, he was pretty good. And then you go into the second half, and late in the fourth quarter, he gets progressively worse. It's very similar to Justin Fields. As the game goes on, he gets worse. So,
maybe he could morph into more of a game manager with Pittsburgh with the pieces that they have rather than a game changer. Right? The Denver Broncos recruited him to be a game changer. And that's what he was in Seattle, because his stats, as you say, weren't the greatest, right? But he was a game changer. He did things that other people couldn't do to win games that other people might not have won. So he had that ability. And has he lost it? It seems to be that he has lost some of that. He did play better this past season, but did he play game-changing football? Not really. In fact, he made some game-changing decisions that lost them games.
Yeah, I'll give them this, though. They were able to hold the Chiefs close in the first game and ended up beating the crap out of them in that second game. That is something I could commend Russell Wilson for doing.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs went on a tough streak there where they lost 5 out of 8.
They looked pretty down and out.
That was one of the losses.
I think no matter what team he goes to, if the Falcons are interested, I don't think he's winning there. If the Patriots are interested, no. It doesn't matter where he goes.
I don't think he's going to the Patriots either.
And honestly,
I think Pittsburgh is. You're probably right. That's probably where he's headed.
I'm going to say
this: salary. He's going to have to take a big salary cut to go there.
I'm going to take one out of Austin Eckler's book. If I'm Russell Wilson, the worst outcome would be for me to stay on the team. He said that last year about the Chargers. The worst situation for him would be to remain on the Chargers because he was dealing with a contract issue. By the way, we're going to do this on Friday. The number of top-tier running backs that are in the free agent market that probably won't be tagged, it's tremendous. So a number of teams that are looking for running backs, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Patriots, a lot of teams. There's going to be some sizable talent in free agency when it comes to running backs. But for me, no matter what team he goes to. Is Russell Wilson a hardball quarterback? No. Has he shown his age when it comes to being able to, as you say, make those game-changing plays in the plus category and not in the negative category like he was against the Jets? More of those moments are becoming very clear now. I don't think he's going to make it to Super Bowl. I don't think he's going to win a Super Bowl. You could put Russell Wilson, now you could argue he had a fringe top 10 quarterback performance this season, although personally I don't think so. Was he top 15? Yeah, he was. But is he top 10? No. But I could see the argument because we also are taken back by this because we're like, oh, this is the Russell Wilson that we are kind of familiar with. Not last year. Mm-hmm. And so maybe we exaggerate this year's performance a tiny bit because of how horrible he looked last season.
Mm-hmm. He wants the 3 Super Bowls because that's the automatic entry into the Hall of Fame.
I mean, some people are saying two Super Bowls. Some
two.
people are saying two.
Eli Manning.
We're gonna have a whole the Last Dance, and then maybe sometimes you have Kobe's retirement tour. We may have an Eli Manning Hall of Fame argument tour as it gets closer and closer. There's going to be a number of conversations when it comes to me.
He's going to be available. He's going to be eligible here pretty soon, right?
Well, this is the year.
This is the year coming, huh?
So it's going to be fun debating some of those. But, yeah, I don't think Russell Wilson's well, first of all, you could take this hot take. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Is he a fringe Hall of Famer? Yeah, he's fringe. But it's more so probably not. Will he make it to another Super Bowl? No, he won't. Will he win another Super Bowl? No, he won't.
So he can't win one if he can't get
exactly.
there. Oh.
Regardless of what happens, Russell Wilson, can he still be a good quarterback in the NFL? Yes, he can. But there's
more as a game manager, I think, than a game changer.
That's probably where he'll find his success. But are the Steelers?
That's
is that
a good
all
team.
they need?
That's a good team for that. I think.
So you think all the Steelers need is a game manager? Also,
a game manager that has the ability once in a while to make a game-changing play, and I think Russell Wilson still has that in him.
I'll say this: the personalities, I don't think will
more than Kenny
mesh.
Pickett.
I agree with that. But what I'll say is that I don't think the personalities match. Russell Wilson, very calm, cool, collected guy. We saw Deontay Johnson and George Pickens each sort of rebel against his own team, against their own team. Mike Tomlin had, he couldn't, reel them in to sort of
because
stability.
The offense played poorly. They got rid of their offensive coordinator partway through the year.
I mean, I think lack of production. It's a lack of control of emotions when it comes to Pickens and when it comes to Johnson. So could Rush change that? He very well can. But I don't think he's going to be that changing player that takes the Steelers from fringe playoff contender the past couple seasons to, okay, they could consistently make the AFC Championship game. I don't think so, especially because the AFC it's a much harder conference than it is in the NFC. So you're going to be going through Mahomes, that's the thing too. I would get out of that division, absolutely. Because now you got Herbert with a significantly better head coach. You have Mahomes, who just won back-to-back Super Bowls and is going for a three-peat. You have the Raiders, who they have a player's coach, so they could be looking at another quarterback potentially. If not, though, you're going to have some Mahomes rules. You're going to see the physicality of the Raiders.
The Mahomes rules.
Yeah, exactly. So I would get out of the division. If I'm Russell Wilson and I'm being kicked to the curb, I'd get out of the conference. Go to the easier one. Go back to the NFC. Because even if you go to the Steelers, you'll be playing Joe Burrow twice, Deshaun Watson, and mostly that Cleveland Browns defense twice, and you'll be playing Lamar Jackson twice. You could argue that division, on paper, is a tougher task to deal with than it is against the West.
It could be.
Because the Chargers, they have been up and down. The Raiders have been mostly down.
Generally, the Steelers play decent games against their competition in the division. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But still, though, it is a tough task to be up against those teams
with
those quarterbacks and that talent like that. Go over to the NFC. Join the NFC South. You can compete with Baker Mayfield or Derek Carr or Desmond Ridder for the top spot in the NFC South. That's where you have the best opportunity to maybe make a Super Bowl. You got
to go up against Baker Mayfield.
The volatile Lions
defense. You got to go up against Baker Mayfield.
The choking Eagles. Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, who this past season, 2 straight playoff games, had horrible first halves. I would say if I'm Russell Wilson and I'm getting kicked to the curb, look at NFC teams. Go to Atlanta. Say Atlanta. I'll take the veteran minimum, which he reportedly is open to doing. Take the veteran minimum just to go out and prove to your haters, your doubters. You could argue that's me. Go prove to people that I can still make it to the playoffs. I can still win some games. I think going to Atlanta is your best shot. So, Russell Wilson may be out. He'll probably be out. But it's glad to see that he's in the best shape of his career so far, and he still has that passion and that fire to still compete after getting beaten and bruised by the media and by fans for the past 2 seasons.
And by opposing defenses.
And by your own head coach.
Yeah,
that's the worst one about it, by your own head coach
Russell.
as well. All right, let's talk about some NBA now. Let's go to the association. So Draymond Green, your guy,
What do you mean, my guy?
Your guy.
I never said Draymond Green was my guy.
He came to the defense of Jayson Tatum on the Draymond Green show from The Volume by saying, quote, JT will not be taken serious for the MVP until he wins a championship. And it just hasn't been that way for everybody else, I must say. It wasn't that way for Joker. It's not that way for Giannis. It's not that way for Joel Embiid. I don't know how the goalposts moved on you like that, but they should acknowledge it because those are the facts. How much truth is there to what Draymond Green is saying about Jayson Tatum and how people are perceiving him when it comes to being an MVP favorite, or at least getting a little bit more credit for the MVP?
Before I get into that, I got to say, I watched the Draymond Green show.
Yeah.
Right? Come on. He's sitting there in his living room holding a microphone, right? The show was all of 8 minutes and 30 seconds long. He talked about the Jayson Tatum issue, which was interesting, actually. I thought that he had a little bit of insight there. Then he went off on some other thing, which I can't even remember now. But come on, you're going to have a show that's 8 minutes long?
Well, they're generally not. I want to preface that. They're generally not 8 minutes long.
But that one was 8 minutes and 36 seconds long, okay? And then he had Colin Cowherd came on for a betting commercial.
Yeah.
And that was it, you know? Hey, Draymond, listen to our show. Come listen to our show. This is the format is here. The topics,
I'm not
the research. The topics, the research. The topics, the research. We may not be Draymond Green, but there's depth of analysis here. So
I'm not on board.
I'm not really into what you're talking about here. The MVP leaders, Jokic at number 1, Alexander at number 2. Giannis at number 3, Luka at number 4, and then Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum could move up in the list here. The season's still got a ways to go. Celtics are 7.5 games up in the Eastern Conference. Tatum's scoring 27 points a game, down from 30.1. But look at the team he's playing with. They went out and got Drew Holiday. They got Porzingis. They got Derek White. They got Jaylen Brown. I mean, there's 4 all-stars there. You got to distribute the ball around a little bit. You should get some credit for being a team player and not hogging the ball.
So you think there is truth to what Draymond's saying? How he's doing enough?
No, I agree. You know what? I rag on his show a little bit, but I do agree with his
a little.
I do agree with his analysis that Tatum's getting the raw deal. I think that, and there is some truth, I think, to that people remember how poorly he played in the finals that he did get to against the Warriors. So I do think the comment that the goalposts have moved a little bit. I'm not sure you can call it a fact, but it is an interesting concept and a thought.
So I'll say this: it is rough, and I do think people acknowledge it. That if you have triple-digit turnovers in a playoff, in an entire playoff run, that's a massive problem. And by the way, in back-to-back seasons, if we combine the past 2 playoff runs, he has a total of 156 turnovers. That's not great. That is not great at all. But I do think Jayson Tatum is having one of his best seasons of his career, which the numbers really back that up. He is the second high in points per game. He is one of 4 players in the NBA to lead his team in both points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game. The other 3 players are Paolo Banchero, Luka Doncic, and Nikola Jokic. So he's in very, very good company. I think Paolo's going to be a star, an absolute star for years to come in the NBA. And I do think Jayson Tatum sort of gets short-sighted because when we think of the Celtics and their historic franchise, we expect instant success. We talk about long playoff runs. We're talking about winning titles. We don't think of lackluster play, inconsistent play, and when they make the playoffs, they eventually fall apart. And that's kind of what the Celtics have done. We look at some of Jayson Tatum's performances in the big-time moments, and I understand league MVP has basically, or it should have, basically nothing to do with playoff experience, but it's the idea of perception. It's the idea of perception when it comes to both regular season and playoffs, that next year, how are we going to think of him? Are we going to think of him as a choker, but it's only in the playoffs? But that's our perception of Tatum. is that he's inconsistent. We saw a number of games where there was once in the playoff run this past season where he shot 0 of 8 from 3. I believe it was 8 of 22 that day. And I believe that was the Derek White tip-in game winner in Game 6 against the Heat. We see these things where they have trouble beating the Hawks. They have trouble beating the 76ers. They lost. They should have gotten swept, but they ended up losing to the Heat in 7. And in that last game, that Game 7 was a brutal watch because the Heat just...
He got hurt in that game.
Well, I'm just saying, the Heat just outmanned them, out-destroyed them on every facet of the game just throughout that entire playoff run. That entire series was all Heat, basically.
Well, it did go 7 games.
Well, we have to acknowledge that Game 6 was basically a last-second tip-in from Derek White.
Hey, a win is a win.
That is true. Doesn't mean you necessarily deserve the win.
No.
Because you didn't play like you deserved to win. But I agree with Draymond here. Basically, what Tatum is doing, the production level is incredible. Now, Jokic, I think, deserves to be the number one guy. He's averaging damn near a triple-double, 26 points, 12 boards, 9.3 assists. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's having a great year. He's second in scoring. He's averaging 31 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Giannis, 30 points a game, 11 boards, 6 assists. That's a great year. Luka, he's first in scoring at 34 points a game, 8 rebounds, and 9.5 assists. Let me bring the number again. Is he third? He's fourth. I'd put Luka in number 2. If I was making an MVP race list, basically, I would have Jokic, I'd have Doncic, I'd have Tatum, I'd have Giannis, and I'll put Shea over Giannis. So basically, I would reorder it as 1, then 5, then 4 would be 2, 5 would be 3, 2 would be 4, and 3 would be 5.
I agree with putting Luka at number 2, but for a different reason.
Yeah.
For tolerating playing with Kyrie Irving. That's why
They're the
I put him at
highest
number
scoring
2.
duo in the NBA. They don't play defense, but they are the highest scoring duo in the NBA. But for me, I think Tatum deserves a little bit more respect. Does he deserve the MVP this year? No, he does not. Because we're seeing guys drop 34 points a game. We're seeing guys, score triple-doubles, 30-point triple-doubles for an average, basically. And that is Luka. He leads the league in scoring at 34 points a game, has 8.8 rebounds, and 9.5 assists.
How about Irving? How's he doing?
Kyrie Irving this season has 25.7 points a game, 5 boards, 5 assists. He's shooting 42% from 3. Not bad. Not bad at all. I do think Tatum deserves a little bit more respect, though.
I do too.
But here is where it gets into a conversation of comparisons. Would we put Tatum over guys like Jokic, like Embiid, like Doncic? I wouldn't. Because they are more consistent. There's a lot of times where Tatum goes out there and shoots 25% from 3 on like 8 attempts, and we're like, this guy's an MVP candidate? And then you hit the playoffs where it's like, because it's a bigger moment at the biggest stage, you're playing tougher competition every single game, we see much more volatile movements when it comes to Jayson Tatum's production. And sometimes Jaylen Brown needs to step up. Or we've had moments where Al Horford, game 1, I believe, against the Warriors, that fourth quarter, he couldn't miss from 3. So I need to see more, because I'm talking about 28 points a night. I want to see like 40% from the floor, from 3, excuse me. Like, I got to see more consistent production.
Well, I'll say one thing, and you kind of hinted at it. The Celtics, the one thing that worries me a little bit about them, tough time closing out games.
They have been the worst clutch team in the past 3 seasons.
They get out to nice leads. They play tough the first 3 quarters. Their focus in the fourth quarter and really go after it so that they don't make these games too close.
Right. My expectation is, and we've talked about this on the show before, if the Celtics don't make the finals, this will be probably the biggest disappointment we've seen an NBA team have with the amount of talent that they've had in a very, very long time. Like, I think everyone can unanimously say the most recent disappointing season was the Nets with KD, with Kyrie Irving, and with James Harden. That was a massive disappointment. I think every NBA fan would agree with that. I think if you have a team with Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, Drew Holiday, Derek White, all playing at tremendous high levels, think about this. The Celtics gap between 1 and 2 is 7.5 games. That is a bigger gap than Minnesota, the number 1 seed in the West, and the 8-seeded Dallas Mavericks in the West. The gap from number 1 in the East to number 2 is bigger than the gap from number 1 in the West to number 8.
Do you think the East has as much talent as the West in terms of teams and players? I'd say it's more competitive in the West.
You could definitely argue that, but if this East team goes in, and they are the best team in the NBA by 5 games, and you go out and you put up another dud like you did again, you even put a dud up against the 76ers, but if you go out and go down 3-0 in any series before the finals, even in the finals, the season's a massive disappointment, because now you're going to have to pay Jayson Tatum a bunch of money. You're already paying Kristaps Porzingis a bunch of money. You signed Jaylen Brown to a Supermax contract. You won't have the ability to keep building these teams and building tremendous depth to maybe put you over the hump. Like, this is a damn near super team.
Yeah.
And if you can't even make the NBA Finals,
what
are the Celtics doing?
This is their year, because Drew Holiday's on a 1-year deal and Porzingis is on a 1-year deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the year they got to do it. I'm hoping they do it. I've been disappointed by you guys a little bit this past few years. Teasing us and looking like you're the best and you're going to win it all, and then finding a way to lose it, particularly against the Warriors there, where you started out the first game, looked like you were dominating those guys. You were bigger and tougher, going down low, scoring down low, and then couldn't do anything after that. So,
well, currently they have, according to these playoff probabilities by Basketball Reference, they have a 48.8% chance to win the finals.
Yeah.
Nearly a coin flip, which I think, if we talk about the legitimate, just looking at the team and looking at their history, if they make it to the finals, depending on the team, I don't think it's a 50-50. I'd say it veers to whatever team they're playing, just based on the history and the lack of late game success and late game takeovers. Like I mentioned, like you brought up, they have been the worst clutch team in the past 3 seasons. Is that coaching? Is that exhaustion? Is that fatigue?
Well, they brought in
Is that just bad play?
They brought in more talent and the backup coaches, the assistant coaches. They've got more. They have more talent there now than they did before to help Joe out a little bit.
I think Joe Mazzulla does need a little bit of that help, though, because I just think that defensively this season they are 5th in points allowed. The pacing is terrible, though. They're bottom 10 in the league. Defensive rating, though, is great. Offensive rating's 1st in the league. Like, they are a very, very well-rounded team, as they have been, for the past couple seasons now.
But this is the best team they've had. Don't you think so? I mean, they have Porzingis. He's a 7-footer.
Yep.
He can shoot threes.
Yep.
They have Drew Holiday, who's a good guard and tough. He's big. He can defend. And they have Derek White, who's been shooting the 3 really well. Jaylen Brown got a Supermax contract. Scores, what's he scoring? He's up there in the 20s, right? And he's scoring, right? And they're playing together. No one's hogging the ball. They're playing as a team, so they should do it. They should do it.
That's what affects Tatum's MVP chances.
Yeah.
He has so much talent around him that...
Well, that's why they should give him some credit for being a team player.
But the fans aren't going to do that.
You think he can make the team players around him better? He does distribute the ball. He's a point forward, right? He does in many he
does lead
many
his team
possessions.
In assists per game. Yeah.
Many possessions. He's the one handling the ball. So
that is true. That is true. But he kind of needs to be, because he is the best player on his team. He is the best player on the team. Drew Holiday's having a pretty good year, 13 points a game. Defensively, he's doing very, very well. But Jaylen Brown, the numbers are 22 points a game, 5.5 rebounds with 3.8 assists. The assists are not great, but he's not out. He's not a point guard.
And he's playing on a team that has a lot of other talent.
Right. And a lot of guys touching the ball more.
Porzingis scoring over 20 points too, right?
Hey, that was a great pickup because he had a career year last year or close to he had a career year last year. And I think we kind of expected him to come in and perform very near what he did last season with the Wizards. And
I'd
he
say
is
he's
doing that.
outperformed last year.
3-point percentage is down a little bit. Points per game is down a little bit. But we're talking
Again,
about
he's
just
playing with the other
right.
teams. The ball gets distributed. Everyone gets to play.
He's taking 3 fewer shots than he did with Washington last season. So that could contribute to him having 3 fewer points. So, who knows? But yeah, that'll wrap up today's episode of The Harvey Hour. We appreciate you guys tuning in for today's live stream, today's episode. If you missed any part of the show, on Spotify, type in The Harvey Hour or Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you get your podcast, you can find us at The Harvey Hour. But for this episode of The Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been your host of The Harvey Hour. Catch us Friday. We're doing some free agency moves. Who's going to go where? That's going to be a great topic. We also will have more basketball news and more football news as the franchise tag deadline is very, very close. I believe it's March 4th. I got it wrong the first time. It's next Tuesday, so a week from now, the franchise tag window will be closed. We'll see if anyone else besides T. Higgins gets the franchise tag. But for the time being, you can catch us 6:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube on Friday. We'll see you then.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.